So this is a story about where I've been, a season of slowing down, deeper listening, and uncovering a layer of myself I hadn't discovered previously within me. So a few weeks ago, I decided for my birthday I'd enter into a plant medicine journey. I came with questions, but mostly I came with the need of personal self-discovery. Something inside me was finally ready. I'd been thinking about for a while, and one question that kept on returning to me was, what do I need to fully let go of in order to fully receive? And so this story is made up of moments, raw ones, unexpected ones, tender ones. Some of these moments came through clearly, and others I can't quite explain, almost like trying to describe what a sound looks like, if you know what I mean. I'm sharing this as an offering, a window into my personal journey, maybe a way to kind of be felt rather than understood. So if you're in a space of asking, or if you've felt the tension between doing and receiving, if you're meeting your edge, it kind of feels either gently or forcefully, I invite you to try on some of what I've received here and see what might be true for you also. What I share is simply where it is that I've been, and I'm glad I can share it here together with you. If you're finding value in this story, I'd love to invite you to hit the subscribe button below. You'll be the first to receive content just like this, honest, relevant, and here to support you on your journey. With every like and every follow, together we're succeeding in our mission and reconnecting the world with what matters most. And that is, of course, each other. Thank you so much. So when I came back to Bali, I came with a clear intention. I wanted to break through a frustrating plateau I had experienced for too long. Business has been steady, structure was in place, and on the outside, things looked fine. But I felt this like invisible ceiling, like something was holding me down. And it's been this way for a while. I've got really great mentors, lots of business coaching. I've put in plenty of hours, and I definitely don't avoid the hard work. But the needle just wasn't shifting in the way I knew it could. And that part felt really fucking frustrating. Like, really. It made space for me to go inward. And so I worked with a hypnotherapist, and I journaled every day, and I sit with myself more than what I've ever had. I'm a huge advocate, and I just ramped this up. One pattern that started to come into focus is I saw myself networking like a nice guy at the bar. Sweet, generous, always helping, but I was never really quite seen as the attractive authority. I realized I was friend zoning myself. I wanted to be helpful, to be liked, but I wasn't leading with authority. I wasn't guiding the prospect who I was talking with to make their decision for change. I was just like orbiting them with good intentions. And underneath it, I could feel something much deeper. And what was coming up was something about rejection, not wanting to be unwanted, maybe. So this is what I noticed, I would reject others before they could reject me, judge them not being the right fit, so I wouldn't have to be vulnerable with them. And at the core of all of this was the question of, what part of me doesn't feel safe to lead? What's the belief that's still shaping how it is that I show up? So I kept writing it out. I kept returning to it. And I realized this was never a strategy problem, but rather an energetic problem. I was doing like plenty. I was showing up. I think it was about becoming someone different rather than more doing. And that's where the theme of receiving began to show itself, and not just in business, but in everywhere across my life. It was like life kept on whispering, this isn't about effort anymore, because I had plenty of effort. This was more about my capacity. I was like, can you receive what you say you're ready for? And the more I sat with it, the clearer it became. Everything I was experiencing. This plateau the holding back, the frustration, it all traced back to one thing. It kept on being about receiving, not just money or clients, but like receiving care, receiving support, receiving love, receiving help, receiving recognition, receiving nourishment. I was carrying this weight of needing to earn everything, prove everything, justify everything. And when somebody gave me a gift, I would like shrink a little bit. I'd worry about how to reciprocate it. I'd feel tight in my body, like I owed something, and maybe something that I couldn't quite repay. I saw how often I tried to manage other people's experience of me, how I anticipated their emotions, their needs, how I played caretaker just to avoid being the burden. And this, of course, bled into business, into like every client conversation, every offer, every energetic transaction. Because if I couldn't fully receive, how could I fully allow others to give to me? Maybe it was through their trust, through their money, through their partnership. So when I arrived for the mushroom ceremony, my only intention was to find out, well, what do I need to release in order to fully receive? The guide looked at me and asked, how are you receiving the feminine? And I thought, well, my relationship with my woman partner, I said, well, it's good. And when I sat with the question, and I really sat with it, I wasn't so sure, not necessarily about the partner, but about the question he'd asked. I thought of all the times I brushed off a sense of tenderness, when sweetness made me like uncomfortable, when I tensed up at gifts or softness or stillness. Somewhere along the way, I had learned that receiving meant obligation, care meant keeping score, or letting someone give to me meant that I owed something back. And so I armored up. I kept on moving. I filled my space with doing. And without knowing it, I cut myself off from the very energy I needed most. And so the mushrooms were mixed with honey. They were very sweet. I like mushrooms, a bit strange as a dessert, almost if you like. But we began. And he gave me these eye drops. They came from the Amazon. And they burnt like a motherfucker. That was his words. And he wasn't lying. He said they would clear my vision energetically. And they did. Not just my eyes, but like, I don't know, maybe my inner seeing, if you like. And so I laid face down on the massage table, and the ceremony began. Less with visions like I had expected, but more with like pressure, more with presence, more with hands. He gave me like a deep tissue massage, and he found every part of my body where I'd stored impact, like old injuries. I broke my neck and fractured my shoulder blade in different parts, like different traumas, the exact spaces where I'd physically broken, physically or energetically. And slowly the plant medicine took its way in. I drifted between worlds, half asleep, half aware, experienced images, scenes through a dreamlike state. And then I felt it. It was like a pair of hands on my back, like soft hands of a woman. I knew they were his hands, but the energy was something else really entirely. It felt like I was receiving the feminine into my body as a sensation, as a frequency, like gentle, loving, safe, warmth. It only lasted a few seconds, but I still feel it. And I think that memory has been wired into my nervous system. And I'll share with you in a moment why. But after that, a vision of a grassy hill, stone hedges, and like ancient castles. I stood there beside another man, shoulder to shoulder. There was like this king energy, not so much as a ruler, but more as like a brother with a sense of great responsibility, almost with a message that was something like, you can carry responsibility, but only when you've received enough to hold it with grace. And then resistance showed up. When the first round of mushrooms began to fade, I felt a bit disappointed. I hadn't received the big message that I'd come for, the big breakthrough. And I wanted to ask for more, but I hesitated. I didn't want to be the burden. I didn't want to take up more space than whatever was allocated. I didn't want to make it inconvenient for him. And that's when I realized the pattern was playing out in real time, even in this ceremony. It was a ceremony designed for me to receive, and I was still caretaking someone else's comfort. I did finally ask for more, and the moment I did, I felt that old childhood fear. If I ask for too much, they'll stop loving me. And as the second rounds of medicine moved through me, I shifted from the table to the bed. I wanted to be more comfortable, but again, I hesitated, asking, I wanted my eye mask. I had to ask for it. It was uncomfortable. Then I need to ask to move, ask for space. Even the smallest requests, I felt them within me, and it was coming clear. Receiving wasn't just about being open. It was also about being willing to ask. And then as I began to resist the message, a part of me emerged. And I saw a playful response from the 6-year-old boy within me. The one who didn't want to listen. The one who pulled up the blanket over his head when it felt like things were getting hard. The one who just wanted to act his age, be a child, be a kid, without having to hold everything all together. Every time something uncomfortable surfaced, I caught myself doing this. I don't want to do it. Pulling the blanket up and turning away, hiding. But this time, I saw him. I let him speak. And I let myself be with him. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't even resistance. It was just a boy trying to stay safe, trying to stay soft in a world that asked him to grow up too fast. And in the space between moments, I could feel my mum. Not as the woman she is now, but as the mother she was for me. The roles that she carried, the weight she held on her own. Her love came through in waves. And I felt like you gave everything. You carried it all. You filled both roles, the provider and the nurturer, because you had to. You tried to shield me from sadness, from your tears. But I felt them. I felt everything. I see now how survival shaped both of us, and how doing became the only way of going, how presence got sacrificed for productivity. And in the ceremony, I saw how rejection of the feminine wasn't just about woman. It was about a part of me I never had the opportunity to develop, the soft part, the feeling part, the creative part, the one that sings and dances and paints and asks for help and slows down. My mother shared something after I told her about this story. And she remembered how I was always cuddly growing up. I think I still am. I like hugs. She shared with me how we used to lie in bed and read stories and watch movies. She remembered how when my little brother was born, she worried I'd feel pushed aside. She told me how she tried to give me extra attention. And even now she sees how her protection of me, her trying to do the right thing, might have taught me to also hide my sadness. And so none of this is anyone's fault. But all of us were just doing the best that we could. So this journey, it wasn't just about money or clients or growth. It was about learning to, remother myself, giving the little boy in me what he never quite received, letting him be seen, letting him rest, and most of all, letting him to receive without needing to earn it first.